Hey y'all, my name's Kati Kleber. I'm a clinical counseling intern at the Rock Counseling Group, and I'm excited to be able to give y'all some tips on how to support your loved ones or family members who may be first responders or healthcare workers. I have here with me today my wife, my loved one, Kati Kleber. She's a nurse educator. She worked at the bedside for several years, and she's been doing a lot of writing and talking about this very issue recently. So thanks for being here. We also have our dogs here in case you hear some ear flapping, some tail wagging, some barking.
It's not me.
That's right. So I want to go through just some of the needs that first responders, healthcare workers have while they're navigating this tough issue of the coronavirus. So number one, what are some of the practical ways that you can support your loved one or your healthcare worker, first responder? Those practical needs can include a few things. They can include coming home from a shift, meals. What are we doing about dinner? When they come in, especially if you're a nurse or you've been in a hospital, or really right now, any situation where you're in contact, what kind of decontamination do you need to do? What time is that person going to be home? That can vary. When you're a first responder, healthcare worker, there can be things that come up and it can throw off when you're going to get off your shift. So these are all things that kind of relate to those practical needs. So why don't you share a little bit?
Yeah, I think having some grace with, hey, normally they get home at this time. Well, maybe they can't get to their phone and they can't let you know, knowing that, they might be home later than usual. Whenever they walk in the door, having an understanding with, especially if you have children, young children, that if they need to go shower, well, they should go shower immediately, change their clothes immediately. Those kinds of things, and giving grace for that and allowing that to happen, I think is really important. And that'll look different for everybody depending upon the setup of your home, but definitely having kind of a protocol in a sense for when you walk in, when they walk in the door.
Yeah, so those are some practical expectations of, okay, when mom or dad comes home, they need to go shower, they need to change their clothes, they need to do the things that are recommended right now. And especially with kids, it can be important to prep for that. Letting kids know in an age-appropriate way, here's what's going on, here's what this sickness is. We actually have a book too when it comes to helping. It's called We Help Mommy. I'm still looking for a book called We Help Daddy. Haven't found it. You read through and it's a story about kids helping their parents in these practical ways. So reading through books about this. Practicing when mom or dad comes in the door, actually practicing waving from a distance and being excited from a distance, that kind of greeting that's still compliant. Having them practice as well as just help you with putting dinner on the table and involving them in those ways. Drawing pictures, getting creative with how to prep them is really important. And then understanding what that protocol or routine is. I mentioned dinner before. The expectation of, I think you've said right now, getting dinner on the way home, even though you're allowed to, probably not the best thing.
Yeah, maybe before this happened, it was the routine where your loved one who's working at the hospital would pick up dinner on the way home. I know a lot of people that do that, but maybe right now, them picking up dinner on the way home before they've had a chance to clean themselves and kind of decontaminate, it might not be the best idea, honestly. If there's a way that you can figure out, hey, someone else makes dinner or picks up dinner so that their priority when they get home is getting clean and getting in different clothing.
Right. Communicating that with, the loved one who's taking care of the kids if you're still working or if you're there. Kind of planning for dinner, having that set up so that doesn't have to be worried about by the healthcare worker or first responder. So those are just a few practical needs. Some emotional needs. I really think the practical bleeds into the emotional because when you come home and these things are taken care of, it allows that person to just focus on decompressing.
Yeah, it takes a responsibility off of your brain.
Absolutely. So decompressing can be different for different people. What does that person need? Do they want to talk about what's happened at work today? Do they prefer not to talk about it? Do they prefer text messages and maybe pictures of the family while they're at work to just kind of give them that encouragement?
Those can be such a big boost of morale, too.
Absolutely.
When you work for 12 hours at a time in the same building in a very small area, you almost forget that the world exists outside of that. So the text messages, the memes, the pictures of the kids, the sillies, don't forget to do that stuff. It makes such a big difference on morale and can really help you get through a shift and really be supportive.
Sure. And being able to communicate and know, okay, you know what? Well, my loved one's coming home, they like to be able to talk on the way home, to debrief what's happened. Or when they first get home and they've decontaminated, they want a few minutes to be able to just talk about what happened. Or maybe they need some time alone to write about their day, to just sit and breathe and have some quiet, and not talk about it at all with anyone else. Those are important things to know to be able to emotionally support. And I think, when that person doesn't want to chat, it can be important for you as the loved one to just be able to say, you know what, that's where I can just provide physical affection, something as simple as a hug, affirmation or validation statements like, I'm proud of you, I know this is scary, I appreciate you, I love you, you're being brave. Those are things that can be very emotionally supportive.
Presence and validation is huge.
Right.
Like if you don't want to talk, just something being there is very supportive.
Yeah, and then other things, that you can do together, I mentioned, breathing or meditating. Those can be things that are emotionally restorative. Praying together. Again, for everybody, there's different ways of getting some of that emotional support. Okay? The next one is the social and recreational needs. So coming home and disconnecting, and this can even include the days off, being able to just enjoy life and have a sense of normalcy. What are the things you enjoy? What are some of the hobbies? I know for us right now, we're going through the Marvel movies in order.
Yes, we're on Ragnarok, so,
it's
pretty
it's
good.
A good one. Playing cards, family games, definitely getting outside, being in nature. That kind of also relates to those emotional needs being met. Connecting with friends in socially acceptable ways right now. Those are all important things to consider for your loved ones so that they're being healthy. I also like to throw in exercise. Again, different outlets that help that person continue to be healthy. You can support in those ways by doing that with them or ensuring that they have the time and encouragement to do it.
Yeah, making it as, this is important to me, for you to participate in this self-care stuff, so being able to, create time for that to happen and permission to, go do it.
Absolutely. And the last thing I want to mention is all these needs and being able to implement all this has one thing in common. You got to be able to communicate and be on the same team. When scary things are going on in the world, when there's stress, we can often tend to let that come between us and our loved ones, and the problem can become between us. It's important that we recognize we're on the same team. We're on this side of the net, and the opponent, the problem is on the other side, and we're facing that together. And so we're communicating about what we need. We're communicating expectations in a way that takes into account each other's perspectives. And finally, again, as the loved one or family member of the healthcare worker, first responder, you can help and support others when you've done that for yourself, when you're meeting these practical, emotional, social, and recreational needs and being healthy. So I encourage you to keep doing that. So this is just kind of a brief snapshot of some advice, some tips that might help. We appreciate everybody who is going out there on the front lines. And Katie, thanks for being here.
Thank you.